It's the Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Show with Lady Luck, Bad Bunny, and I go by Miss Lissa. We gon' wake that ass up. It's the Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Show, and Cheese Show. We give you what you need, yo. You need, yo. Every 3 times a week, yo. It's the Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Show, and Cheese Show.
Yeah, bacon, egg, and cheese, about to wake that ass up. Girl, who is you playing with? Wake that ass up. Told your big daddy when you wake your ass up. Yo, what is you waiting for? Wake that ass up.
After we do the show, then stop. Then what? Subscribe it like it's hot. After we do the show, then stop. Now what? Subscribe it like it's hot. Now subscribe it like it's hot. Now subscribe it like it's hot. BEC, so subscribe it like it's hot. So subscribe it like it's hot. So subscribe it like it's hot. BEC, so subscribe it like it's hot. So subscribe it like it's hot. Subscribe it like it's hot.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to the Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Show. Little technical difficulties this morning, but here goes the bacon. Damn, here we go. The bacon.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you ladies doing?
Feeling good. It's a blessing to be alive. It's Wednesday. Share the love. Share the live. We have a wonderful show installed for everybody. So please let everyone know it is noon. It's time for Bacon, Egg, and Cheese. Babs, Bunny, Lady Luck, Miss Lissa, and Billy Carson on the way.
Yeah, he just texted me and said he's on his way. Shout out to Billy. We're going to have a fun-filled show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are going to educate you today, put you on some different things. You know what I'm saying? And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Billy Carson. I did it. Wait, I did that, but then I didn't have this ready.
Okay.
Hey.
Hello.
There we go. That's my guy.
Good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing amazing.
All right.
We're glad to have
First of all,
you.
it's not even fair for Billy to say good morning. I was down in Florida. I was blessed to be down there this weekend. We did a great video for the remix to Woke Don't Mean Broke. Shout out to Crooked Eyes. Shout out to Dunny Arcade. But Billy is up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He just takes naps and things of that nature. So I just feel like Billy is an alien. It is a super duper honor to have him on the show. And I wanted to introduce him to our audience and just, basically tell everybody about what you got going on, everything you got going out. So, ladies and gentlemen, Billy Carson, 4Bidden Knowledge is in the building.
Hey.
Yes.
Thank you. 4Bidden Knowledge.
Yeah, and Brina, can you put that in the queue for me so we can pin it? It's the number 4Bidden Knowledge. It was the evening where I was just up late night. I'm always doing research. I'm always trying to find things out. Bab says I'm her smart friend, so I'm always looking for ways to expand my knowledge, and then that's when I came across 4Bidden Knowledge. So, can you explain to the audience how you came about with 4Bidden Knowledge and basically what you guys are sharing out here? Dockery's brought up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I started really researching and studying different types of knowledge all the way back to the 1970s. And in the 1977 is when I started researching aerospace technology. I would get the Encyclopedia Britannica. I started looking into different types of futuristic technologies that the military was doing. Aerospace with delta wing, swept wing, different type of rocketry devices, and different types of lifting devices that they were creating really all the way back in the 60s. Even the stealth, the SR-71 Blackbirds and all that kind of stuff. I've been researching that for a very, very long time. And that research took me into a mode where I started realizing a lot of these things that I'm researching are kind of tied to some of the advanced things mentioned in ancient civilizations. And as I started digging deeper and deeper into ancient civilizations, I started realizing there was a correlation between the two things. And when I started looking at some declassified documents, I realized that a lot of these agencies around the world knew that there was a connection. Not only that, they would research these ancient tablets and texts to gather information and ideas for concepts on how to build futuristic technology. And I was like, wow, Hitler was one of the most famous ones to do that. And I was like, wow, this is really incredible.
So the research that you were doing, first you started looking up the incredible advanced technology that our government already had. And then as you started to study ancient texts, as you started to read the hieroglyphics, and as you started to do research with things from the past, you realized that that is where our updated technology came from.
Absolutely. You know, it's all, we have only rediscovered everything that already existed. We have discovered nothing new. We've created nothing new. Like it says in the good book, there is nothing new under the sun.
Like even the Mayans definitely were tapped into a different, like even when I think about like the pyramids, because I was in a more progressive elementary school. It's called Midtown West. It's in Hell's Kitchen. So we had to learn about like hieroglyphics. We had to learn about Sumerian writing. We learned about ancient Egypt, about Nefertiti, the bust forms. We learned about the different pharaohs and their headpieces, like all of these things that now I'm learning. Like I was like, wow, like that school was showing us something completely different. But something that I do notice is that people that are enlightened are very afraid to share the information because it's not, like you said, they've been taking and taking. And so for people to be now saying like, look at this and look at that, it's scary for some people. Like even when we think about like Dr. Sebi. So it's like, what gives you the courage and makes you not afraid to share this type of knowledge?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You know, it's a long and lonely road, first and foremost. So people who have the information, who've been doing the research, like myself, for many decades now, it's a lonely road. And you are right. It's hard to share the information because a lot of the information is not accepted, especially initially when I first started, thinking about these concepts and wanted to talk about it. It would be rejected. You have to have thick skin. So a lot of people have not developed thick skin. I'm the type of person, I really don't care what other people think. Like at the root core, like I really don't care. And so for me, that was a great benefit because my skin is so thick, I was able to take a lot of criticism. A lot of people calling me crazy. I'm a wacko, I'm a whack job, I'm a tinfoil hat wearer, I'm a pseudo-scientist and all these kind of things. But I never let that deter me because I knew what was truth for me and what resonated with my spirit. And so I just kept following my own heart and digging deeper into the research. And eventually I said, this is really like forbidden knowledge. It's not banned knowledge. It's not knowledge that is unacceptable, but they fractalized it in so many different ways. It's hard to put together the pieces of the puzzle to see what's really going on. So I decided to call it forbidden knowledge.
So Miss Lissa had mentioned the Sumerian tablets. Can you explain to her the book that you've given to me about the Emerald tablets and how you came about with translating them?
Yeah, so there's a lot of tablets that have been written all over the world. The Sumerian tablets are some of the more famous ones because we have over 1 million of those tablets now. And a lot of those tablets have been deciphered by people all the way back from the 1800s. And there's another great work called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth it was written by an Atlantean priest king that ruled over the land of Kem. That was ancient Egypt before it was called Egypt, pre-dynastic era. He ruled over the land of Kem for 14,000 years, according to the Egyptians themselves, which is a long period of time just to be ruling over a place. But he authored these tablets. He offered quite a few, over 100. One of them was called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The other ones were called the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. So that was a singular tablet. And as I started digging into these tablets, which were about 36,000 years old, the Emerald Tablets, plural, about 36,000 years old, I realized that a lot of the words that were being talked about in that text were the same words when I read the New Testament of the Bible as reference to Jesus speaking. I said, wait a minute, if this is 36,000 years old and Yeshua only lived about 2,000 years ago, which came first, chicken or egg? So I started digging deeper and deeper into it from there. Then I started recognizing a lot of things like quantum physics, quantum mechanics, a lot of esoteric wisdom that has been taught now in more modern times by gurus and sages. It was all in the Emerald Tablets. And I'm like, is this the main source for information for all these gurus and Christs and everything else that came long after? And I really do believe it was. And so as I started talking to people about the Emerald Tablets, a lot of the people I talked to in the community kind of glanced over or read it, but couldn't really fully grasp the full concept or idea of what was being told. So I decided to write a compendium of the Emerald Tablets where I deciphered it even deeper, got the deeper meanings and broke it down and put it side by side with the Emerald Tablets versus what was actually being stated and the meanings behind them. And the book exploded on the market. It became a bestseller almost instantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I know that. So from being down there, I spoke with your sister, an amazing woman who inspired me. Her story is inspirational, and she definitely inspired me to get back on my diet. But she spoke about you having a Christian mom and a praying mom and a mom who believed in God and believed in the Bible. So how do you see the difference between what most Christians believe to what the things that you have learned in your research?
I found that what most Christians believe is actually not that far off from what they really truly want to have happen spiritually. What has happened, unfortunately, is in religion, there's been a little bit of a hiccup where a lot of the information has been curated in a way to dominate and control people's minds versus letting somebody be spiritually free. And I think that at the deepest core of a person that's Christian, or any person that's into a religion, they really want to experience a true spirituality. But unfortunately, the way that it's been curated, it locks them down into a system that doesn't really allow them full freedom and control. Imagine a fish in the ocean, and imagine me putting a fish bowl in the ocean and putting a fish inside the fish bowl that's in the ocean. Religion is the fish inside the fish bowl in the ocean, and the fish on the outside of the fish bowl in the ocean is free to swim around. And so that is the difference between the two, if I can make that kind of analogy. And so my mom kind of even recognized that as well, and she really didn't force the hardcore religious practices on me of religion. As a matter of fact, in 1978, my mom told me that advanced beings, she didn't say aliens, she said advanced beings exist and that they came to this planet in ancient times. And she told me that there were even ancient airports on mountaintops in ancient times. And she told me I had to go to Machu Picchu, which I made it my life's mission to finally get there, which I did. This is why I dedicated my first book to my mother.
Can I ask you this? Do you believe or do you know that the aliens made the pyramids?
Oh boy.
That's a great question. So it's a little bit of both. Yes, they did, and yes, they didn't. So when you dig deep into the ancient tablets, like for example, one of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he talks about the fact that he built the Great Pyramid, which was falsely attributed much later to Khufu, and other pyramids around the planet. Now, he himself didn't take his hands and build pyramids. What he did was he laid out the architectural floor plans and then taught that knowledge to people. He started off in the land of Kem, which is Africa, and he started teaching them how to build the pyramids based off of his understanding, his technology, his architectural designs. And then he told them to go around the planet and duplicate what we did here. So what we're looking at is a floor plan of a master architectural masterpiece that came from one source and then was spread around the entire planet.
Okay, so why do they not know? Why are they still trying to figure out how did they build the pyramids? And they like, we don't know how they did it. How did they move all these rocks and get it this high? They didn't have equipment and all of that stuff to do that.
Because if they tell us exactly how the pyramids were built, we're going to want to stop using petrol and gas and fuel. We're going to want to start. We're going to start wanting our technologies around here to change, versus what they have us on this metered technology that they can make trillions and trillions of dollars off of us, and change out the entire economic system of the entire planet. If you go to these stones that are some of these temples and pyramid sites with a compass, you see the compass will flip. We know that the magnetic field around the atoms has been changed in some type of incredible way. We understand now, we know that these stones were levitated into place with a reverse polarity of a magnetic field. So we're talking about anti-gravity technology. We also know that the Great Pyramid, this is from many mainstream engineers now, have analyzed the Great Pyramid and discovered that it generates wireless electricity when it was in its prime, when it was functioning properly, when there was an aquifer flowing from the Nile underneath the base of the pyramid. It would create something called physiostatic electricity, which would pull the ions up into the Grand Gallery, which had resonating chambers, which would push it up into the King's Chamber, which would then project a wireless energy field out of the apex. So they know that free energy exists. They know that anti-gravity exists. Just those two technologies alone would upset the apple cart in the entire economic business of all these countries, which are really corporations. And then on top of that, the fact that we would understand that in ancient times, advanced beings came here that masqueraded as gods on this planet, made people worship them, and are responsible for the majority of what we have here today in terms of a civilization. That's why civilization popped up overnight out of the darkness. It was given to us. That's all in the book of Enoch.
So, speaking of energy, you know how people be like, oh, my energy's off, or the energy in the room is a little bit weird. And I'm always, I be feeling that. So, you know, do you believe that we are energy? And that, you know, that two energies, I try to say, like, you know, you trying to plug something in the socket and it don't fit, right? And so it's just like, yo, if it fit, and then bam, our energies match. You could be, I've walked in a room and the energy was so dark to me, it made me, I walked in happy and got in there like, hey, what's going on? Like, it just, you could feel it. Like, and they was like, and when people be like, what's wrong? You like, I don't know, I just feel. I could feel it. I can't explain it, but I could feel it. Is that energy?
That's so real. That's so real. So I studied applied neuroscience at MIT. And while I was there, one of the greatest things that I got confirmation on is human energy fields and how they interact with one another. And so at MIT, this was amazing because I have been talking about this on Forbidden Knowledge for years, and now here I am at one of the top universities, or the top university really in the world, in my opinion, the top technological university in the world, with the greatest minds on the planet, and they're saying the same exact thing. So we discovered now that there is a torus energy field that's emanating out of the body, coming directly out of the heart. It's an electromagnetic field, and it whips out and wraps around, extends away from you between 8 to 10 feet, and in some people, even 20 feet away from your body. There's an energy field being projected by your human body, by your heart primarily. And so now what happens is your hormones ride up those magnetic fields that whip out of the body. If you walk into a room and there's people in it that are frustrated, fearful, scared, depressed, their cortisol levels are spiked. Those cortisol levels are actually flowing through that field on the exterior of their body. Now you walk in, your field is connecting with their field. The hormones from their own body is now getting caught up by your electromagnetic field and downloading directly into your body and adding another different hormone shift in your own body. This is peer-reviewed science, changing and altering the way you actually feel. And so what's happening is you are actually taking on somebody else's emotions directly into your body, and that's why you can sense and feel the darkness in the room. You're sensing a low frequency, a low vibration. You're sensing fear, anguish, PTSD, depression. All those things have now been downloaded into your body. And this is why when you walk into a room full of darkness, if you're vibrating at a higher frequency, if you're walking in with love, light, unconditional love for people, service to others, a phenomenal attitude, you can have a reverse effect also on people. You can actually have an effect where they get your energy field and it drops their cortisol levels, it drops their hormone levels, and actually they can start to feel better. That's why some people say when he or she walked into a room, they lit up the room. That's a true statement because you're walking in with that positive energy. You know what I'm saying? You can lift people just by walking through a room.
Yes, and I also try to tell people, I've been saying this for a while. I'm like, people say, oh, they using you for money. I'd be like, people could use you for your energy. You know, they could try to suck your energy out. That's why you have people, they only call you when they going through something bad because they need that good energy from you. But when they going through something good, they don't want to throw that energy back. They hold on to it.
Energy vampires.
Yeah, they hold on to that good energy. They don't call you and be like, hey, girl, I'm doing so good today, and try to throw the energy back at you. Or maybe you good and they good, and now y'all energy together is like poof. You know,
that's why it's important. That's why it's important to always surround yourself with people who are going to where you're going, or the people who feel the way that you feel. That's why it's the Bible calls it being unequally yoked. But Billy, we hopped right in. Pause. I didn't get a chance to introduce you to my crew. So this is media maven Miss Lissa. She is an absolute genius. As you can tell by the way she speaks, and I mean she's just phenomenal. This is Brooklyn Babs Bunny, making the band, Queen of the Ring, pop icon. icon. And ladies, this is my guy. This is my spiritual guru. This is my teacher, Billy Carson. So we just hopped right in. I didn't get a chance to.
Okay.
Oh, Billy, it's great having you on the show, and it's great that I get to talk to somebody that moves off the energy. You know, I grew up in the First Baptist Church. You know what I'm saying? My grandfather was the head deacon, my grandmother the head deacon. I was in the usher, I was in the choir, and I would question the Bible to my grandfather, like, this doesn't make sense. You know, and he's like, well, it's Jesus. That's all it was. It's what? Yeah, because Jesus. I'm like, how did they? I remember I asked him. I said, how did they nail him to the cross and all the weight on his body didn't slip through the nail? Like, I'm asking him this, and he's like, he's Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
There's a little bit more to it than that. There's a little bit more to it. Even the crucifixion is, is questionable. The Christ, Jesus, first of all, he never said that he was coming back. He said the Christ would return. The people get that twisted. The Christ would return. And the Christ is the Christ consciousness. There's many, many more Christs before Yeshua, a.k.a. Jesus. And he's talking about the evolution of consciousness on the planet would return, and we would head back into a golden age. Also, the King James Version of the Bible, which is the most widely used Bible, has about 14 to 17,000 discrepancies versus the Sinai Bible, which predates it by almost 800 years. And in the Sinai Bible and a couple of other Bibles, there was never a crucifixion of the actual physical body. It was a crucifixion of consciousness. And so if you go to some of the older and original texts, and even they found now, it's at the Harvard Seminary. When I was there in Boston, I went to go check it out. And when I was at MIT, they found the book of Jesus's wife. So he got married to Mary Magdalene and most likely even had children. And the Merovingian bloodline is still on the planet till this very day. And the whole concept of the crucifixion was created by the Romans, the Roman Catholics. Even hell was added to the Bible in the late 1700s. And in 1800s, the rapture was added to the Bible by William James Darby. So we're talking about a hodgepodge of information taken from scriptures and scrolls that were found in different caves and so forth, and then put together and then heavily curated by the Council of Nicaea. And then also, of course, King James, who wrote his most famous writing is a Satanic book. That's King James' biggest claim to fame. Not the Bible, but a Satanic book, which did even better than the Bible. So you got to really go back into deeper. That's why I focus on super ancient texts, super ancient records. So I can go all the way back. Like most of Proverbs came from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And they only started calling it that in more modern times. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, the true name is called the Book of Going Forth by Day. And the majority of Proverbs comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The Old Testament comes from the Enuma Elish and the seven tablets of creation, the Epic of Atrahasis, the Epic of Gilgamesh, some of the Mahabharata, and then moving into the New Testament, you're talking about a lot of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and other different accounts that people left behind in caves of their own personal experiences that then got wrapped into what we call doctrine. So the great thing about the Bible is there's a lot of good information in there. If you know how to discern information, you can take things that can help you, benefit you, make your life better. There's things in there. It's good stuff in there. But there's also some things in there that are not truly connected to the true story, because the Bible was written from 100 AD to 900 AD. And so that's thousands of years after these people lived. So you got to remember that the people that wrote the Bible didn't write it in real time. Right. They weren't standing there going, what'd you say again, Paul? Oh, let me write that down.
It's like
it didn't happen that way. It was written way after. And so if I have 20 people in a circle and I whisper to this person 3 lines of conversation and say, repeat it. When they go to the next ear and the next ear, the next ear, the next ear, the next ear, by the time he gets back to this ear on the other side of me, it's going to be a slightly different story. And you can experiment with that with people that you know. When information gets passed around like that and rewritten and re-talked about and re-expressed, it takes on a little bit of that person's personality and a little bit of things change. And then when you add things like the Roman Catholic government into it, you can see how things can be curated and manipulated. That's why they took all the Apocrypha texts out of the Bible. I have the full Apocrypha in my house. That's all the forbidden books, the 4Bidden books. And in there you see some incredible stories that will blow you away that they didn't put in because they knew if they put that in, there would be no need for pastors and priests and and all these other kind of stuff.
So is
You know,
it
it's funny
true
to say
that
that. This is what. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So is it true that, like, you know, this monogamy thing was added to the Bible, like, you know, because of like bloodlines and, you know, wanting everything to stay in the family, and so they write this in that you only supposed to be, you know, it was like a control thing, levels, like, you know, kings, queens, you know, peasants and stuff like that. And so in order to control and to make sure that babies and all of that was in one bloodline, they made this thing up as far as like monogamy. Do you believe that?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I can't specifically speak on the facts of that because I have no evidence of that's how or why they did. But what I can say, because you know, one thing about me is, and luck will tell you, I don't like to make things up. If I don't have any particular evidence to back it up, I won't really, you know, comment on it, but I'll give you an opinion. So my opinion is that if you go into the biblical text, you discover that there were not only, you know, a hierarchy of kingship and, like you said, work politicians and peasants and so forth, but you also discover that even people own slaves. And they own slaves, and some people over saying the people in the Bible are black. Okay, well then own all of it. Yeah, we enslaved each other then. Yeah, own it all. Don't hide any of it. Own it all. And so we enslaved each other. We had house slaves that we would use for you know, mating outside of marriage and this and that and all this other kind of stuff. And eventually it turned into this new system that was really under the Roman Catholic setup. And it was really, in my personal opinion, to find a way to collect more, to gain more money from collecting taxes. And so they set it up that way for tax purposes, just to collect money. But and more domination and control, it was a little bit easier also. But, you know, it's it's really amazing because when you go to Egypt, I'll be going again in October, you discover that, you know, even in the old era, like if you would walk around, if you didn't have money, you'd walk around naked. You'd be walking around like an animal. And the king or the pharaoh wouldn't let you walk around with clothes because he wanted to make sure you weren't stealing nothing from him. And you weren't allowed to learn how to speak the highest level of language. You were to speak the lowest level of language. The politicians would know the middle language and the lower level, and then the pharaohs and these Ntiru, or they call them the Anunnaki, they would learn the language of light. And so they even had it broken down. They had you segregated by even what language you could speak and what clothes you can wear or not wear. And so people always go, you know, we were kings and queens. Well, we had kings and queens, but there's only one king and queen at a time. Everybody else was struggling.
But that's how we are now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they point things out. People would say, oh, I'm lit, you a bum. You know, I got money, you don't. It's people that still slaves, that go to work, they still maids in the house. Yeah. They still got a side room where they got two people come in, one in the day and the person that come in the evening, and they sleep in that side room. That's a whole fact. You got people busting their ass every day for work while the king who owned the company is chilling and just signing checks. And the drug dealers say, take off your clothes before you come in here and bag up. So it's the same thing. You can't walk out of here with my shit. So they gotta make sure you butt naked when you going in there to back up. So it's the same thing, just a different time. That's all.
So Billy, a lot of the knowledge is real quiet, and that's the one thing that I love about everything that you do. Even when I forgot the name of the Facebook group because you know it's a long name, but you guys have actually researched anomalies around the solar system. And that's one of the videos that introduced me to just following your whole story. So can you explain to us about how there are pyramids, not only just around the world? So we give a lot of you know, props to Egypt, but there's pyramids right now that they purposely hide with vegetation over in Asian countries, and they believe there's pyramids underground, like even one in Alaska. So, you know, so luck always reading. But can you explain to us about how we can survive on every planet in our solar system and how there's pyramids?
Yeah, that's a great, you know, topic. There's a lot of pyramids. So the Atlantean people that came here and built this advanced civilization, they call the Ntiru. You know, these are the Anunnaki beings that came here about 450,000 years ago, according to the ancient texts. They built the pyramid grid on this planet. There are thousands of pyramids on Earth. Matter of fact, if you go to Mexico City there's hills everywhere throughout Mexico City. You starts off low and builds up to hill. Starts off low and builds up to hill. People are like, what are all these hills here for? How did this landscape get like this? Well, if you ask the indigenous people, they will tell you that underneath those hills are pyramids. What they did was they put churches, they blew off the tops and put churches on the top of every single one, Catholic churches. So there are literally just hundreds of pyramids just in Mexico City alone. And of course, you have Teotihuacan, which is a copy of what's in Cairo, Egypt. It was built by Thoth as well, by the way. But not only on Earth, we find that in these ancient texts, these beings talk about extending breakaway civilizations to the moon, Mars, and even other moons in our solar system. This is well discussed in there. It's not, again, this isn't Billy saying it. This is the text that's thousands of years old, that's sitting up in museums all around the world, that anybody can go look this up. And so what's interesting is if you go to the space probe data from the European Space Agency and other agencies, you start to analyze some of the data from the Mars Curiosity rover. You look at the Mars missions satellite data. You see what appear to be pyramids, for example, in Cydonia on Mars. Now, Cydonia is the ancient name for Cairo, which is where the Great Pyramids are on Earth. So they named Cydonia on Mars after Earth, Cairo. And at that location, there's a 5-sided pyramid with complete geometry to it, still intact. And there's also another small pyramid city in their giant face. But then when you look at some of the other footage, there's one that's on washington.edu, University of Washington. They have an image there from Mars that was taken by Pathfinder called the Presidential Panorama image. And the Presidential Panorama image shows 2 pyramids in the background and what looks like, and I'm not saying this is, it looks like a Sphinx sitting in the foreground and 2 objects, one on the left, one on the right, which appear to be technological pieces of something. We can't really detect exactly what it is, but this is actually hiding in plain sight for the whole world to see. If you look at the moon images, and I'm talking about images from the moon prior to CGI, prior to Photoshop, prior to them being able to even obfuscate the images, which there are images like that you can get. You see from Mercury missions and from the Clementine mission and other missions, it clear as day, pyramids on the moon. There's even a replica of the Sphinx and the Sphinx enclosure on the moon, which is one of the videos on my Forbidden Knowledge TV channel. And so it shows me that there has been this civilization that not only was on Earth, but the same architectural floor plan was moved across the entire solar system. You can even find this, there's a moon called Titan. And on the descent of the Huygens probe down to Titan, you can see a pyramid there on the side of a hill in the distance, and as it comes down and descends. So again, another pyramid. So these pyramids are everywhere. I saw pyramids in Australia when I went to Australia. They're everywhere. And it's the same exact builders, the same exact people. These people were mining this entire solar system for resources. The same thing we would do if we were that advanced, because right now we're looking at this $100 quadrillion valued meteorite that we want to go mine right now. We're trying to figure out how we can land on this thing and get this ore right from this meteorite. And so if we want to do it, and at this level of technology that we're at, imagine being 500,000 years more advanced than us, maybe 1 million years more advanced. It's a no-brainer.
And Billy, and ladies and gentlemen, I just want to repeat, because I know some of us might partake in, I was making fun when I was down there. I said lower frequencies. Anybody want to take this Patron lower frequency? Some of us might smoke. So just to break it down in layman terms, everything that Billy is saying, like we all spent years, decades on YouTube watching these Illuminati videos. But Billy is telling you guys, before, like I'd watch Alex Jones. I would not see any evidence sometimes of what he's saying. It's just the music, the energy messing you up. Billy is telling you, I'm not saying this. Go to Washington this and go to NASA this and go see it yourself. Go to this museum yourself. These places exist that he's telling you. It's, it's for real. And it's funny, right, Billy? So late night when I'm watching these videos, I saw one of these, I hate calling them aliens because we're aliens too, but I saw a spacecraft go up to the sun. Yeah. It looks like a tube came out. It looked like it took energy from the sun, and then it just goes. Yeah. So like they come here to play a lot. So just starting at the beginning of your story, what turned you on to look into space? I saw a story like.
Can I ask a question before he goes into that, please?
Okay, I'm sorry. I just get so excited.
Thank you so much. Hi, Billy. I'm back.
Hey.
So I had a question about the Sphinx because you said that they were on different planets. Did they look identical to the Sphinx in Egypt, and did they blow the noses off those too?
Okay, that's two good questions. The first thing is yes, the Sphinx looks identical to the one at Giza. The second thing is, now this may be a little shock to you. The noses of a lot of these statues, a lot of the etchings and all the temples that are there that have been chopped off, including the Great Sphinx itself, was ordered by Pharaoh Akhenaten. So let me tell you why. So Pharaoh Akhenaten, this is thousands of years ago. This is King Tut's father, King Tutankhamun's father. He was a black pharaoh. His mother was Queen Tai, a black queen that actually ruled over Egypt for quite some time as a female. She was actually a woman pharaoh with a big afro. Well documented. You can go to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo to see her. Now, what's interesting about this, Pharaoh Akhenaten worshipped Amen-Ra. Okay, he was also known as Aten, the sun disk. The reason why they call him Aten is because he ruled from the sky. He would rarely, according to the text, come and walk amongst men. He would stay in his sun disk, which was some kind of disk that floated in the sky that had lights on it. And so he told Akhenaten that he wanted him to usher in a new world where people only worship him as the one and only true God, Aten, Amen-Ra. And so he ordered that all people give thanks to him by saying amen at the end of every period and at the end of every giving of thanks. This is why everybody says amen. They're giving thanks to actually one of the most brutal rulers and killers of all time. This guy was so evil. And so he Akhenaten to do this, he faced all the other gods. So he would go to every single, he had his army and military going around, chipping off and erasing as best as he can all the faces, all the noses, the ears. If you go to these temples with me in October when I go to Egypt on my next tour, you'll see thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of these faces chipped away. This was all done in ancient times. The purpose of this, to be honest with you, was because Amen-Ra was this made it into the Bible. That was a jealous God. He's a jealous God, and he's the bringer of good and also evil. That's also in the Bible. This is from Amen-Ra directly. He ordered this to be done, and the Egyptians got so pissed off with Akhenaten from what he was doing, they actually booted him out of Egypt. But by then, he had acquired a lot of followers into this monotheistic mindset of this one God religion, and they all left with him. This is the true Moses story that occurred. He left, and the reason why Pharaoh came after him, because he went to the Great Pyramid and took the Ark of the Covenant out of the box that was sitting inside the Great Pyramid. That was a source of power for the Great Pyramid. He took that and he fled with that. They didn't cross the Red Sea. That's a mistranslation. If you're going deeper into the ancient text, they crossed the Sea of Reeds, and which is a much smaller, closer sea. And they crossed that sea. Now, that sea is a much easier sea to cross, especially if you do a geological rewind, geological disaster rewind, which we can do now with computer simulation. And based on tectonic plate movement, we see that there was a massive earthquake around that same time period, which would have caused a tsunami, which would have sucked the water out of the Sea of Reeds and would have made it dry to walk right through, and the water would come crushing back, which it did happen. You know, so all this can be found in all this ancient text, but that's the true story of the Sphinx and why the noses and faces are chipped off.
I thought it was the white man.
I used to think it was done by white people.
Yeah, well, so did I. But now when you
that's what I thought.
Since you said amen is kind of like part of something that's negative, when you come to commencement for your meditation or your prayer, because even myself, right? Growing up, my father was an atheist. And so I wasn't raised by someone who was religious. And my mother was, like, both of them had substance abuse issues. But I've always known that there was something spiritual, that there was something bigger than me. I always knew that. Like, I used to pray that my parents wasn't, like, inebriated when I got home from school. I always knew that there was power in my words and also writing things down. But I've
Yeah.
never prayed and said in Jesus' name until like literally the last couple of years, because people were telling me that I was praying wrong and that Jesus was like the representative and I wasn't really contacting God. And I've always said, well, we're reading a Bible about people that didn't have a Bible. So it was like we're all talking to God or whoever your higher person is in your own way. And that's why I say God is my publicist. So it's like when you pray, who are you praying to and how do you commence your prayer or your meditation?
That's great questions, phenomenal questions, actually. And so when I pray slightly different from, well, completely different, really, from the average person. The average person prays from a position of begging and pleading and hoping and wishing that an outside source comes to save and help and create a new paradigm for them for whatever they're trying to fix or change. And unfortunately, if I were to connect your brain to a computer with sensors, I would be able to see your brain pattern in that prayer state, and it would show me that you're operating at a very low frequency. And so, unfortunately, with the universe, low frequency brings back low frequency results. Now, if I were to put that same electrode cap on your skull and have you pray from a position of power, in other words, when I pray, I don't pray as if I'm asking for things to be changed. I command them to be changed. I command realities into existence. Why? Because the same power that created everything in the entire universe is the same power that's inside of every atom inside of my body. So I am God and God is me. I'm just a fractal of the ultimate creator. And so because of that, I have a certain amount of power that's imbued into every single cell in my body, every atom in my body. And I'm going to take that power and I'm going to command change in my life, in my own reality tunnel. And so what I just do is I command. If I get on an airplane, I don't go, Lord Jesus, help me get to my destination safely. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I don't do that. I say I command that I arrive at my destination safely and on time. That's my prayer, and that's the ending. I assume the end before the end. I assume that it's already worked out before I even have to make the ask or the command for it to be worked out.
Right.
And this is the type of a concept where you are literally taking control of your reality, and you become what they called in the ancient text an ordainer of destiny. And so that's how I pray. I just command everything. I don't pray over food. I command that the food is healthy for my body. And so it's a different way of thinking. When you're praying, what you're trying to do is you're trying to cast spells.
Right.
And you may not want to say it, but that's really what it is. The Bible itself is just a book of spells as well. All these books are books of spells. Words have power. And so the thing is, we don't know now the elite people, they know how to utilize those spells, but we haven't really mastered it because they have put a veil over our eyes and have us not recognizing our true full power and potential. And when I read the myth of Adapa, that's when I woke up to this new concept and way of thinking. It's an ancient text. It's really Adam's book. It's an ancient text about Adam, and that he was created higher than even the Anunnaki. He wasn't created, but he was modified. He was a genetically modified human. And they had given him so much power and understanding and insight, they had tapped him into the spiritual realm without realizing it and made him so much more intelligent and smarter than them. So they realized they had to strip that all away and make him think that he was nothing. And that got passed down from generation to generation. So we truly are really fully powerful, mighty beings, even more powerful than the people that tried to manipulate and deceive us. And once we fully recognize the true power that's inside of us and our ability to command realities by conscious thought, see, every thought you think creates a light wave that leaves your skull. We know this in science. It's a scientific fact. You can't see the light because we only see 1% of the light spectrum. We have a very limited view of what light is. But an electromagnetic wave leaves your brain. Not only does it leave your brain in your skull, it goes into space-time and it connects to the energetic grid in space-time and it stays there for eternity. This is the Akashic Records, the book of life. Every thought you ever thought of is existing in space-time on the energetic grid right now. And when you get an idea, when you think you got a new concept, a lot of the times you're downloading that right from the grid. You quantum entangle with information that's already existing and you bring it into your mindset, you discern it, and then you can act on it. So we have to understand that not only do we have power, but the power exists within this energetic field and this grid that we're connected to. Anything we can think of, wish, or want to know a solution to already exists. We just have to tap into the energy field. And then we have to discern it, and then we have to put action behind it. And if we command and truly believe that we are a part of the creator, then you can watch things unfold right before your eyes.
I want to say this. Words are very powerful, and I do tell people, because we all get down at times, and you can either stay in that space or you could get up out that space. And so, you know, I tell people like, yo, if you feeling down on yourself, change that. Get up and say, yo, I'm great. I'm powerful. I'm awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you really start to feel that. Wipe them tears and be like, yo, fuck that. I'm not crying no more. Like, for real. Like, yo, I'm not crying no more.
Yeah.
I'm tired of crying. And like, you gotta, and once you say that, it'll happen. Like, and so if you get up and you make it happen, it will happen. And it just sounds so cliche. I have visualized things in my head. When I was younger, I used to hold the remote for the TV in my hand and stand in front of the mirror, and I would rap Little Kim rhymes, and whenever she would say her name, I would say Babs. And I would visualize a whole crowd. I was there on the stage.
Yeah.
So when I finally got there in life, I was like, yo, I've been here already. Exactly. I've been, even with my son. I remember I woke up and I was like, yo, I seen him. I'm having a boy. And this before I even knew I was having a boy. And then a month later, I went to the doctor and she was like, it's the boy. I was like, oh, I knew it. I seen him. I seen him already. Like,
Yo, B,
and that's
B,
real.
We got to go with Billy. So, Billy, you're going back to Egypt in October. This is a trip that people can actually sign up and join, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, you know, so many people wanted to go on this trip that that we fill up one bus for the tour. I'm the tour guide. I'm the actual tour guide. And it's all VIP, private access, private everything, 5-star hotels, airfare in Egypt is all included. And so I added a second bus just recently. So we're now getting people on the second bus. So, and it'll be better too, because we can, instead of having 50 people on one bus, we can put 30 on one bus and 30 on the other, give people a little bit of room to spread their legs. And the bus will be connected with a speaker, and I'll have on a headpiece as I'm talking and things like that. Both buses can hear what I'm saying as we're traveling to these different destinations. And we'll all be together on the Nile cruise as we stop off in different destinations along the Nile and go to more ancient sites and temples. It's an amazing 7-day tour. It's the Forbidden Tour of Egypt. You can go to 4BiddenKnowledge.com or click the link in my bio if you want to find out more about registering for that trip. We just opened up the second bus. I'm pretty sure that will sell out pretty quickly. The first one went almost instantly. So if you want to go, you got to hurry up. But I'll be your tour guide. I have an Egyptologist with me, an archaeologist, a guide, myself, a camera crew, Elizabeth Hoekstra, who's our director of operations, and we have also armed security. We have private access to the Great Pyramid. We'll be meditating underneath the Great Pyramid. We'll be doing meditation inside the King's Chamber. It's going to be powerful stuff.
Can I ask you this?
I love that.
Okay, 7 days in Egypt. I want to go, but I need to know this. How is the food, and can you smoke weed? Like, I just need to know these two things. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there's a lot of people out here that might want to take these trips, but, you know, a person like me who still want to eat good and still want to, you know, get a little smoky smoke on. How does that work?
Right. Well, I'll tell you. So the food is going to be phenomenal. It's phenomenal food. You get to experience the true Egyptian culture and African culture. You know, smoking, I probably wouldn't do that. The political climate right now is so. You see, Brittany Griner's looking at 10 years in prison for getting caught with a vape coming through Russia.
Player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to play no games overseas.
That's why I asked, because when you go into different places, you need to know what you
don't do it.
Into.
That's what I was saying.
I don't want nobody to try to book the trip to Egypt, and then you know they got a little stash in the bag. So I
don't do it. Don't do it.
Everybody to know what's going on here.
Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. You'll get good food, but don't bring anything that can get you locked up in a third world country, because that's an absolute worst place to be locked up. You know, they'll have you eating rats for breakfast. You don't want to be out there like that. You know, just it's going to be a great trip, and they'll find that they won't. You're going to be so high on the frequency out there, and the temples and the pyramids and the learning and the exploration. You won't even miss it.
Listen, that's the type of vibe. Listen, I'm trying to be on that vibe.
Yeah, and Billy, before you go, please tell them about Forbidden Knowledge, the network, the page, the books, everything. Just please share everything that you're doing, guys.
And also your son's new book that just released.
Yeah, son Justin. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to Liz. They really took care of me. I mean, he had a private chef. He had us in the Ghost. He had us in the Maybach. He had us in the brand new Escalade. I mean, he had us at a private airport. Okay, I mean, talk about class. But these are things that he said. we manifested. So I want y'all to go stream Woke Don't Mean Broke, because we're really in there. And Billy's like, I'm tired of people talking about just because I'm woke that I can't speak about financial blessings and abundance. And so that's what the song is about. But yeah, Billy, tell us about everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I have 2 best-selling books. One is called The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. The second book is called Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, which is primarily what the song is based on. It's a 688-page financial Bible. Everything you want to know about finances, combining that with spirituality and how to navigate this financial matrix is in that book. Also, I'm a book publisher, so I have 2 more books that are out now. We have the Manifest Destiny Journal by my son, Justin Carson, and the new book by Elizabeth Hoekstra, which just dropped today, The Recipe to Elevated Consciousness, just dropped today. We just picked up the first batch from the warehouse just now, which is amazing.
Yeah, Liz.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, this is incredible. So, and we have 2 more people signed to book deals. So I'm pretty excited about my book publishing company. Also, of course, I have 4BiddenKnowledge TV, which is on Roku, Apple TV, the iOS store, the Google Play Store, the web, and you can literally get the streaming app. You can watch over 5,000 streaming shows, workshops, lectures, documentaries, nature movies, and everything else. And we're now adding 12 new series per year and 2 high-quality documentaries per year, and it's blowing up. And shares are available of Forbidden Knowledge. So anybody who wants to invest in Forbidden Knowledge and actually own shares of the company, they started out a little over 90 days ago. They were only $1 a share. The share price is now doubled. It's $1.50 a share. The valuation went from 20 million to 30 million on the company. So it's really doing phenomenal. Thank you. And so what we're doing is we're taking the community with us. I said, how can I blow up, but also take people along with me? Because a lot of these companies, they never take people with them. I said, if I offer shares of the company, a percentage, people can own shares. And when I go public, we all have an exit strategy. And so that's what's happening now. So I think it's a little over 2,000 people own shares of Forbidden Knowledge. Round 2 just started. You can go to 4BiddenKnowledge.com or click the link in my bio. Shares are $1.50. And I tell you, round 2 is not that bad, because round 3 is coming, and we already know what happened in round 1 going to round 2. You can only see what's possibly going to happen going into round 3. And within 24 months, 36 months, we're looking for a ticker symbol. We'll be on the stock exchange, trading as a public company, bringing consciousness to the mainstream, where it's going to be a common conversation, not an uncommon conversation. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're trying to get to.
Get that bag, ladies and gentlemen. Get that bag, okay? Listen to this man. He manifests everything. He says he is God, not God, that but he's his own.
We are
Jesus
God.
says
We are
that
God.
God's in the Bible.
God body, right? Is that
Yes,
similar?
we are.
Is that similar to how God bodies think?
5%.
5%. Okay. Okay.
Oh, well, they have a concept that we are all gods. I mean, the Bible says ye are gods. We have the power within us. We just, we just keep forgetting that we're a species with amnesia, and we keep forgetting who we truly really are, And so my premise and my mission behind even the NFTs that I just put out are all about making people just remember who we truly are, And we have the NFTs, we have the cryptocurrency. It's all predicated upon waking people up.
You guys got to
Definitely,
follow
I
him.
have asked Luck to connect us, because I've put together a 21-day system. I'm exactly in this space, and I feel like nothing is by accident, because I've been looking for publishers and editors, and people have been playing around with me, and somebody told me to go to Fiverr, and I told them, I said, I don't feel like it's Fiverr. I feel like it's going to happen the way it's supposed to. So it's called Wait for What, but WEIGHT for what, and it's all about getting the weight off your shoulders, chest, and spirit to achieve goals. Because if you can get yourself to mentally eat right and work out religiously, then you can get your mind to do anything. So I am a product of that. Even in this pandemic, I lost 50 pounds. I meditate every day. I'm in a different headspace. Even my daughter the other day told me, you feel different. And I do. So I definitely want to ask Luck to, connect us. And anyone that wants to lock in with you, make sure they hit the link in your bio as well. Definitely,
she is definitely
very
on
stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
She's definitely on a different vibe. I FaceTime her early in the morning. She got the elastic around her thighs. She's hopping and squatting and talking.
And listening to listening to good things.
Yeah, she doing
Nice,
what she
nice.
do. Now, before we go, I have to ask this question, okay? Are men from Mars and are women from Venus?
Consciously.
Are we that
It's representing two different mindsets. It's representing the logical mindset versus the emotional mindset, and how, you know, there's this yin and yang within the consciousness of blending a man and a woman. So, you know, and it's all about really concepts is what that's really about. That book's about concepts. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor. I was telling Billy in Florida this weekend that he's like Jay-Z to me, you know, but from the spiritual realm. He doesn't sleep, and I mean, it's just so much more. We would need so many hours to talk to Billy, like how his brain operates differently from everybody else's, how, you know, just the things that I've learned from him. It was just an experience. So, Billy, thank you for coming on.
Are you vegan, Billy? I'm so sorry. One last question. Are you vegan?
Yeah. I used to be a vegan. I've kind of more of a different diet now. My diet plan is based on my blood type and my blood work. I'm Rh negative, and I was vegan for about 35 years, but I started getting very sick because I wasn't doing it right. I'm not saying that it's bad to be vegan or not bad, but my body type and some of the things that started happening to me with autoimmune problems were stemming from the lectins in the greens, and they were literally attacking my body. And I got to a point where I was so sick, I had to find a solution. So I ended up going to a doctor, getting blood work, getting a fecal test as well, to test all the levels of everything in my entire body, all my hormones and everything else. And then I had a dietitian, a professional licensed dietitian, put together an exact dietary plan based on what my body needs. And I think that everybody should do specifically exactly what their body needs. It's a long process to go through. The best way to get on a diet, if you can find out exactly what your blood and your fecal says, then you'll know exactly what needs to be put into your body for what periods of time, and you can bring yourself back to health. I brought myself all the way back from almost the edge of death.
Is that something you could just request from your doctor? Do you walk into your doctor and say, hey, I want to get a fecal test?
Well, I went to this MD that also became a naturopathic healer and a doctor, and they sent in gave me a LabCorp document to send in. I guess it's like a referral to go get the blood work and have it sent to them. But I think anybody can go to their doctor and say, look, I'm gonna have a dietitian create a diet plan for me. I need my blood work done. You can call LabCorp, and they're pretty much in every state in the United States. And you can say, look, I need a blood work done, all my hormones and all my levels, so I can give it to a dietitian. And I'm pretty sure you can just pay for that as well. Make an appointment and go in there and get it. It's highly recommended. Best way to be to plan. And now I feel like I'm 20 now. I feel phenomenal.
We need you to put together a book list too, because you were running through those books earlier and people in the comments like, what? So ladies and gentlemen, get a notebook and watch this episode back. Thank you for tuning in.
The book is called Woke Don't Mean Broke. It's like the Bible, you heard?
I need that book. I'm getting that book.
The song is also called Woke Don't Mean Broke. Stream that song and get your Queen of the Ring tickets by hitting the link in Baz Bunny bio. You already know we're going to be outside March 26th, right? March 26th.
March 26th is going down in the Bronx. Queen of the Ring, the return of the ring. Hit the link in the bio. Get your tickets right now. Pull up. I don't care what state you live in. It's tax season time. And if you like my man right here, you done manifest the bag already. So you got it. Get on a plane and get to New York City. We live in the BX. The ring is back. Give it up for the ladies. You already know the vibe.
That's right. And speaking of a plane, you could get fly by going to my website. You can get these glasses, this hat, this sweatshirt. If God is your publicist, if you put good energy into the world and you receive those blessings, then support a Black-owned business and enter the code DRIP, and you're going to save 20%. Al.
And it's your girl, Lady Luck. You already know we got Lucky CBD, LuckyCBD.com. You could go there. You could get your flowers, your tinctures. We have sleep drops. We have massage oil. We have come in at 1 o'clock on the dot. We have lotion, everything. You can check out Lucky Crowns. That's for the eye as well. We make custom-made crowns. And stream Woke Don't Mean Broke the remix. We out of here.
Peace.
Thank you, Billy.
Peace. Thank you,
Girl, who's playing with Thank you to everybody who bought a badge today too.